into the Congress itself. But we are now watching one of the greatest scandals in the first 100 days of any presidency in American history. The sharing, by way of a public app, national security information that could have jeopardized the soldiers of men and women in battle who protect and defend the American people. This story is going to last quite a while. Congress is now engaging. The Senate is now engaging. The media has clearly sobered up to the idea that we can't just watch this one take place without our direct engagement and involvement. With that said, we'll cover that on another day. Next week, George Johnson, the founder of AfroSheen, has reached out to our producer and said, hey, I want to be on the program, even though we had to cancel him a week ago due to our executive producer's illness. He wants to be on the program. Next Wednesday, we expect George Johnson, the founder of AfroSheen, to share with us the history of his business at 97 years old and the role that he played with Martin Luther King Jr., Ebony and Jet Magazine, Soul Train, the founding and support of Harold Washington for mayor of the city of Chicago as its largest contributor. We're making history on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to go through his book, AfroSheen. You should get that book right now on Amazon. Prepare yourself for a journey and a ride through 100 years of American history. Tonight and this afternoon, however, our guest is Dr. Donna Adams Pickett, a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist with over 2 decades of experience who provides expert insight on critical women's health issues. This is Women's History Month 2025. Recent federal budget cuts have significantly reduced funding for biomedical research and behavioral research, posing a threat to advancements in addressing the U.S. maternal mortality crisis. These cuts jeopardize essential research aimed at providing maternal health outcomes, particularly among Black and Indigenous women. Dr. Adams Pickett will discuss the potential repercussions of these funding reductions and the importance of sustained investment in maternal health research. Her resume is so extensive, I'm going to use most of the hour to share at the appropriate times parts of her resume. I probably should have began Women's History Month with some of the most qualified women on earth, African American women who are physicians. But Dr. Donna Adams Pickett is not only a medical doctor, she is also a PhD, which means she is not a DEI hire. She is one of the most qualified people to speak on the subject matter of her research of anyone on planet Earth. White men, Black men, Hispanic men, Indigenous men. No one is better qualified to share with us the condition and the state of our nation's health greater than Dr. Donna Adams Pickett. Dr. Adams Pickett, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you so much for having me, Jesse. I'm happy to be here.
So honored that you're here. We have about 2 minutes before we come forward on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Share with us your initial thoughts on what these cuts, these drastic cuts with the federal government represent for the creation, quite frankly, of someone as qualified and as extraordinarily capable as yourself.
These cuts represent to me that the United States is not invested into the well-being of women in this country. That we are interested very much in keeping women pregnant, and that's about it. But taking care of women once they become pregnant, we don't care as much about. We don't care about keeping women as healthy as they can before they become pregnant.
I find that fascinating because in 2001, when I was in Congress, there was an Institute of Medicine report that said that the number one barrier to African American and the health of minority Americans in the United States was the absence of physicians and nurses as well as primary care physicians and doctors and care providers who looked like us.
Correct.
There are probably less than 1,000 people in the entire United States out of 350 million people who have your qualifications, which means you must be extraordinarily busy with African American women and non-African American women knocking on your door for care. Share with us some of those challenges.
Absolutely. One of the things that I'm finding, particularly when it comes to women's health, the restriction on our reproductive autonomy in 19 of the states of this country has resulted in a dearth of women's healthcare providers. So about 2.2 million women in this country live in counties that do not have gynecologists, nurse midwives, nurse practitioners who are familiar with taking care of the human body. So the result is, you're right, there are women who are knocking down our doors who more than anything want to be heard.
Dr. Adams Pickett, when we come forward, I'm Jesse Jackson Jr., listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We're going to dive deeper into these issues of women's health with none other than Dr. Adams Pickett, one of the most significant scientists in our generation.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
The revolution will not be televised.
What's up? It is Killer Mike, also known as Michael Render, and I'm encouraging you to listen to more, not less, of Truth Time with Dr. Cornel West and Senator Nina Turner on KBLA Talk 1580.
Okay, not to be dramatic, but you should smell this. It smells so good.
Whoa, that's quite the reaction to mixing and matching Gain scents. Let's hear another from Ashley, who mixed Gain products and went,
I'm so excited.
Yes, you are. What about you, Isaiah?
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. And Emily summed it up like so.
It is just chef's kiss.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Mix, match, more happy with Gain.
Taxes was taxing. Now taxes is relaxing when you file for free.
I can file for free? TurboTax Free Edition. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free. I can file for free.
Now this is taxes. File for free with TurboTax Free Edition and get your maximum refund. No schedules except for earned income tax credit, child tax credit, and student loan interest. See if you qualify at turbotax.com/free.
Texting enrolls you into recurring automated text messages. Consent not required to purchase. Message and data rates may apply.
Hey, Dan, how you doing? Haven't seen you around the gym for a while.
Yeah, I've really fallen off. Since I turned 40, I just don't get the results I used to get.
Could be lower testosterone.
Lower T?
Yeah, I went through it a while back. Once you hit 40, your body has less free testosterone. I got Nugenix Total T, and it's made a huge difference for me.
I've seen that ad on TV. Is it for real?
Oh, yeah. The key ingredient is something called Tesnor, which helps boost free and total testosterone levels to help you trim up and stay lean.
And it's made a difference for you?
Man, I feel like I'm in my 20s again, at work, in the gym, and in the bedroom.
Are they still giving out complimentary bottles for people to try it for themselves?
Yeah, you just need to send them a text.
Text ROCK to 42424 right now for your complimentary bottle of Nugenix Total T, the #1 selling testosterone booster at GNC. Plus, text now and we'll include a bottle of Nugenix Thermo, our most powerful fat incinerator ever, to help you get back into shape fast. Absolutely free. Text ROCK to 42424. That's ROCK to 42424.
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Dr. Adams Pickett, Dr. Donna Adams Pickett, PhD, MD, Doctor.
Yes.
One of the most qualified people on planet Earth to discuss the issues of maternal health. She talked about in the previous segment about the 19 states where we see these differentials, if you will, between African Americans and white women and the majority culture at that time, and the need for primary care physicians to provide a bridge, if you will, to closing the gap in terms of longevity and proper patient care. Doc, in this, our longest segment, nearly 16 minutes, please take your time and lay out the factors for us in women's health that African American women and others should be concerned about at this hour.
One of the things, particularly when it comes to maternal health, when the CDC, when we still had access to that data, because we no longer have access to that data.
So Doge didn't throw it away, did they?
That's another topic. But the CDC was able to identify that 81% of maternal deaths were preventable. That the numbers that we see, they didn't have to occur. And when we look at currently, Black women are 3 times more likely to die during pregnancy, childbirth, and the postpartum period. There is nothing about our genetics. There is nothing about our socioeconomic status or our education that predisposes us to those conditions, because again,
so you just wipe out you wipe out the racial factors here. You're talking about the other factors that are behind the racial factors.
Right. Well, there is an assumption. There is an assumption that the reason why we are 3 times more likely to die during this process, the assumption is because all Black women are either not healthy when they come into pregnancy, or all Black women are not educated enough to take care of themselves properly. So that's where that bias comes in, that the responsibility is placed back on the patient herself. But when we look at those statistics, it does not matter what socioeconomic status you have. You can be a judge and still have a worse outcome than as a Black woman than a white woman who, say, lives in subsidized housing.
Then that wait a minute now. That blows my mind. So the most sophisticated, qualified, capable African American woman who went through law school, became a judge, either ran for one or was appointed to become a judge, could have a different health care outcome than a white woman who might find herself working a cash register at Walmart's or Lowe's.
Right. That white patient is likely to have a better outcome than that Black patient.
And the reason for that is?
Well, I contend that it is bias. I feel like that's the largest factor here. And I want to be clear, because a lot of people conflate bias with racism. We just assume that you're biased because you have animus towards people who look differently than you. And my position, I contend that bias is based out of ignorance, that you don't know what you don't know. So when we curate these environments where there is no diversity, there is no inclusion, you have caregivers who have never been exposed to women of color, who don't know how to interact with us in a way that there is comfort and communication so that you're healthcare partners.
I want to kind of unpack that a little bit, because in this moment, and I've never given it any thought until you just shared that with our listeners, that when Dr. King talks about, bias, when he talks about the disparities associated with growing up in poverty and the conditions by which particularly African American women live, and all of us, particularly those of African Americans, find ourselves in this particular caste and class system, which is compounded by racism. You're saying that this ignorance, which Dr. King attacks over and over and over again, is at the heart of the matter, and it's critical to the idea of care.
Yes, precisely.
Help us dig a little deeper with that, because
precisely, two ways in terms of communication between the clinician and her physician, her nurse practitioner. Many times the clinician makes the assumption, because they have never been around, say, educated, competent, cognizant women of color, Black women, that they'll make the assumption, well, this patient will never understand what's going on with their condition, so I'm not going to bother to explain it to them. Because the Black people that I have seen, I've only seen the guy on TV who is barely able to write his name, or the lady on TV that is unable to comprehend basic concepts. So I'm not going to take the time to actually communicate with this patient, because I don't know that Black people have the ability to understand this.
I'm sitting here saying to myself in this moment, it's one thing for me to go to the dentist and say, hey, my tooth hurts. It's another thing for Dr. Adams Pickett to say, listen, you got pyorrhea. You have a root canal. That smell that you smell in your breath, in your nose, is something that could kill you. And we need to have a root canal. We need to get this infection out of you right now. And that's different than me walking and saying that my tooth hurts. And what you're saying is that every level of the existence of African-American women, there is first the ailment itself. But when we dig deeper, there is something that is tied to bias that is a factor in whether or not we express ourselves to the clinician, we express ourselves to the nurse practitioner, that we express ourselves in a way that says, hey, you know what? This lump that I feel under my breast is the real deal. Right. And I'm not going to ignore it. It has to be addressed. And I'm not going to, I had an aunt, and let me close on this point right here. I had an aunt, my mother's sister, who rather than have her breast removed, said she wanted to keep her breasts for vanity. She died, obviously, of breast cancer. But the vanity factor was a big factor in whether or not she would get the appropriate care. And she couldn't find a physician who would share with her, we can give you a new prosthesis.
Right.
Walk with me on that, doctor. Help me with that analogy.
Well, I think, again, that exposure to other genders, other races, so that that clinician would have been able to understand how important that was to her. Black women, we like to look good. I mean, we do.
You all do look good.
Listen, if I'm doing a hysterectomy, I'm still wearing pearls in the OR, okay?
She's an AKA, y'all.
Okay. So, you know, someone who has had exposure to a large community of Black women and know that for many of us, our appearance is very important to us, would have been able to see and hear her concerns, but in the same vein, explain to her in a way how she can still maintain her beauty and still be healthy. Not just, she doesn't want to hear what I have to say, so I'm moving on and I'm going to let whatever happens to her happen to her, because that's what a lot of Black women receive.
And that and I can't obviously these are very serious matters. I mean, from your toes to the top of your head. I have seen women who don't, and I've met women. I was on the Labor, Health, and Human Services Appropriations Subcommittee, and I helped fund Meharry and Howard and Drew medical schools and Morehouse School of Medicine, and provided them with the resources that they needed in order to create an endowment to create more doctors and nurses of color, pursuant to the IOM study of 2001. The fact of the matter is, we can replace your toe. We can replace a tooth. There is something else when we meet non-African American physicians, doctors, and nurses, where we don't feel comfortable enough to truly tell them what's going on. And the absence of that honest, transparent conversation is a factor in your longevity and the mortality of our people. Help us, Dr. Pickett.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But we, again, as clinicians, we should create safe spaces, regardless of our color, where a patient can be the most vulnerable with us in that space. Because again, culturally, we carry around the tropes of strong Black woman, hardy, strong Black man. And we carry that around everywhere we go. And so there are not spaces, even in the doctor's office, where we should be able to put that trope down and walk in and be Donna and be Jesse and say, I'm afraid. I don't like the way that I felt the other day. I felt a pain, and instead of trying to ignore it, because that's what I've been taught. I mean, we've been taught, our children are taught, put some tussin on it and go to school and go to school. We are taught to, hey, that pain was a signal from my body that something is wrong. We aren't taught to lean into that. So when we walk in the doctor's office or the hospital or the emergency room, and we're not crying, we're not writhing in pain, but we tell the doctor this is a 9 out of 10 pain, they don't believe us. Because culturally, they have not been exposed that in our culture, we haven't been taught to lean into our discomfort.
I want to make this pivot in our conversation before the break, which is hard at the 30. In this moment, in this discussion, Dr. Adams Pickett is both a PhD and a medical doctor. That means amongst all medical doctors on earth, she is somewhere in the 0.00001% of those who exist who have scholarship beyond their medical degree, which means by definition, she's the standard. She's not the DEI hire. No. She's not whatever's going on in the government right now with respect to Doge going through every department looking for people who benefit. She is, as I've shared with other physicians on our program, from 1619 to the present, everything that we've been told we couldn't accomplish, she is the standard, not only for African Americans, but a standard that my father says you have to be superior just to be equal. She is the superior standard. Even above white men and white women, we have Donna Adams Pickett, PhD, MD, as our very special guest. And she's sharing with us a lifetime of research, a lifetime of ideas, of factors and things that we need to consider to have longevity, the only life that we will ever have. And that is in no small measure because everything about this moment in the history of our people is about Dr. Adams Pickett. Dr. Adams Pickett. So grateful that you're on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. A quick question for you. What can we do to better educate our people about issues of health, particularly women's history, in that women are really the backbone and the spine of our movement, but also our very existence. Without women, we simply can't make it. The 3 minutes to our come forward.
Prioritizing discussions like this one. I know we talk about politics, but our health is a political matter. You mentioned my sorority earlier, but all the sororities and fraternities and social organizations historically in our community, we need to include healthcare programming in all of our programming that we do. Our churches need to include healthcare programming. Because we're not going to necessarily get the information from our clinicians, but we can get it from each other.
I am particularly concerned that we did not do our very best in November. I know that we have about 2 minutes left in this segment, but we have 2 segments after this to which I want to pivot to the politics of your sorority sister, who led the Democratic Party. And one of the concerns we have is the very separate and unequal nature of healthcare. And certainly in this environment where they are withdrawing research grants and research dollars to the states, I am very concerned that we are looking at a new form of Jim Crow that will make the care of African Americans generally and across the board even more difficult when we think about the providers that will be available to our community. And I'd like to share with you an idea that Dr. Michael Jones shared with me when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. My very special guest is Dr. Donna Adams Pickett, MD, PhD. She's our very special guest.
It's afternoon drive time with Jesse Jackson Jr. Only on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Esther Dillard with 4 things you should know from BIN News. House Speaker Mike Johnson is suggesting certain federal courts can be eliminated by Congress. He recently discussed federal judges that have ruled against the Trump administration. This after President Biden appointed more than 60 black federal judges to the bench during his term. The St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department will be returning to state control. Governor Mike Kehoe signed a measure today that will fill the board that will oversee the department. It will consist of 5 commissioners along with Black Mayor Tashara Jones. She called the bill a sham. A bill to keep cell phones put away for K through 8th grade students in Georgia is on Governor Kemp's desk for his signature. And a new UCLA study reveals popping that gum in church service may release tiny microplastics into your body. Get BIN News on demand 24/7 at BINnews.com.
Change the way you see the world at the San Diego Zoo Safari Park. Depart from their new Safari Excursions Depot and embark on a once-in-a-lifetime experience you'll never forget. Plus, every adventure helps support wildlife worldwide. Plan your visit to the San Diego Zoo Safari Park today.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Ice Cube is adding a Los Angeles franchise to his new-look Big 3 basketball league. The team will be called the LA Riot. The coach will be former NBA player Nick Young. Ice Cube will have 8 teams in his Big 3 league. All 8 will represent cities with NBA teams: Boston, Chicago, Dallas, Detroit, Houston, Miami, Washington, D.C., and the LA Riot. The half-court 3-on-3 competition will have a 2-month schedule this summer, beginning June 14th. This will be the 8th season for Ice Cube's Big 3. LeBron is bringing back his Mind the Game podcast with a new co-host, 2-time NBA MVP Steve Nash. The 51-year-old Nash is replacing Lakers coach J.J. Redick. LeBron and Redick started Mind the Game in 2023. The podcast had an average of 1.5 million views per episode. LeBron and Nash will make their debut on Tuesday, April 1st. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio that's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like the style, though.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down, get it going slower.
Eye Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacin-capted Pagal is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Small businesses are the heart of America. But you don't have to go it alone. As the nation's largest nonprofit resource of expert business mentoring, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses for free. Get the connections, education, and guidance you need with SCORE. We're ready to help. Find a mentor today at score.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about. KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. If you need help getting your resume in order, finding job training, or landing a job, we've got 3 great options for you. First, the City of Los Angeles has WorkSource centers across the area offering free job support. The California Workforce Development Board can help you with everything from GED prep to vocational training at no cost to you. On the federal level, the Department of Labor's American Job Centers offer a full range of services for job seekers and businesses alike. Visit careeronestop.org, or for more info, just call California's Help Center or visit cwdb.ca.gov or call 916-657-1440. For the City of Los Angeles programs, go to ewdd.lacity.gov or call 213-744-7300. All these services are free to help you get your next job. This is a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest is Dr. Donna Adams Pickett, both MD and PhD. Dr. Adams Pickett, welcome to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Hello. Good to be here.
It's great to have you. I want to touch upon something because, as I think about, and maybe our listeners have to fully understand, that it is impossible to provide gynecological research or service without Medicare and Medicaid. The average person just simply can't pay for it.
Right.
A doctor has to bill somebody. On our program, we've had a cardiac surgeon and a transplant specialist, both of which African-American women. The cost of that surgery requires Medicaid and Medicare. And when I see Elon Musk and his 20-somethings running through these various administrative agencies looking for cost savings, I say to myself, do you have any idea what the ramifications are of the health for providers like Dr. Adams Pickett who provide that service if, in fact, you're looking for something called waste, fraud, and abuse, and you end up eliminating scores of scientists and Black doctors who, for whatever reason, most of you don't engage in the billing itself. That's someone in the accounting office. You're sitting there with the patient. And I talked with Dr. Michael Jones, who shared with me the other day that there are nearly 70,000 doctors, a significant number, maybe 8 or 9,000, who are scientists just like yourself, who, when the government went after waste, fraud, and abuse, they found something wrong. None of these people woke up in the morning and decided to be a crook. They found something wrong with their billing, and then they locked them up, and they can never bill Medicare or Medicaid again in their lives. I'm trying to close the gap in terms of health disparities by providing more doctors and nurses and anesthesiologists, as well as primary care physicians. But we're going to have to look at these scientists who have nothing else to do but have paid their debt to society and restore them to their practices. Your thoughts, Dr.
Absolutely.
Adams?
You know, when we are in medical school and residency, we don't, I mean, that's the business of medicine. We are focusing on the science. We are focusing on the clinical aspects of medicine. No one is sitting us down and saying, you have to put a modifier here, carry the one, make sure you append this. So I can assure you that in most of those circumstances, it was truly an error because the clinician was just not savvy to the nuances of the billing process. There are times that even in the commercial insurance industry, they'll come back 2 years after the fact and say, hey, you billed someone incorrectly. We're going to take that money back from you that we paid you 2 years ago because we found that you didn't document just a specific way or you didn't add a certain modifier. So it is, again, it's working from a place of not seeing the loving intentions of the provider. The intention of the provider was to truly take care of patients, to keep people healthy. The intention was not to defraud the government.
That's right. That's right. And so the government, one of the downsides, and I am a big supporter. In fact, I was standing in the speaker's chair. Nancy Pelosi didn't want to do it for 5 hours. I controlled the debate between Democrats and Republicans as the speaker pro tempore for the Affordable Care Act. But the way in which the act says we must save money to pay for health care for all who have not been provided health care was to look at waste, fraud, and abuse. And as a result, we went right to the doctors, we went right to the providers, and we ended up saying all of this group of people have a clinical error or billing error. Not just let them repair it, but lock them up. And these people are 40 years old. They're 45 years old. They're 50 years old. They're young clinicians. They've spent 20 years trying to be a doctor. And now suddenly they cannot practice medicine any longer.
Right. Because
they can't bill Medicare or Medicaid because an inspector general's report says these people cannot be hired by a hospital, by a primary care, by an, you know what I'm saying, by a doctor, or county or state or local government entity in the interest of savings. And I am profoundly concerned about that because it disproportionately impacts African Americans.
Absolutely. And many times those decisions are purely conjecture. So they may have audited 4 or 5 charts, saw an error, and then they make the assumption, well, if you have made an error on those 4 or 5, then it's likely that you have made an error on all of your charts. And so we're going to assume the guilt. Not that maybe those were just the 4 or 5 charts that the error was there. And again, you lose the due process.
I had a really interesting, I have about 2 minutes before the break, and then we'll have a final segment with about 10 minutes for you to close on all of your remaining thoughts that I may have missed. I spoke with a physician yesterday, Dr. Thompson. She has a PhD, and then a Dr. Hrabowski, who's a cardiac transplant specialist. And they often share the story of what it meant to be the African-American woman who walks into a room when someone asks you to go get them a cup of coffee, as if you're the nurse or you are the person that, and you're like, no, when you see a nurse or you find someone with less qualifications than me, get 2 cups because I'm your colleague. Share us one of your stories, Dr. Adams Pickett, that you've had to confront in your profession.
And what's most troubling for me is that I had a case where I had a patient who needed an emergent C-section. So we classify urgent versus emergent. Emergent, you have to go within the next 30 minutes. And when we called the anesthesiologist to say we need to go now, the anesthesiologist walked in the room. Now, I had a white coat on. I don't know how he didn't know that I was the doctor, but anyway, he walked past me, literally brushed past me, and went to the nurse and said, "Explain to me why we're emergent now." And I said from behind him, because I believe that the patient is abrupting. It was as if I was Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, as if I just spoke into the ether. And he looked at her again and said, "I don't understand." So I moved past him, went to the monitor, and started pointing to the fetal monitor to say, "This is why we need to go now." And
wow,
it's very frustrating. Very frustrating.
So it doesn't matter. I mean, whether you're in Congress, elected by the people for the first time, and people walk up to you and say, "Excuse me, young man," treating me like I'm an intern, "Go get me a cup of coffee." Right. And I say, no, I'm your colleague. When you find the intern, tell him to get 2 cups because I'd like one as well. Or whether it's Dr. Donna Adams Pickett saying, "Let me show you on this chart why this procedure needs to take place immediately. And I've got 30 years of research and science and training in this particular procedure. And that's why I need you just to give them a little drug so they don't feel this pain." I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Our guest is Donna Adams Pickett. She's a doctor and a PhD. And when we come forward, a couple more questions, and then she's going to offer a word of hope.
While you're stuck in traffic, we can at least bring you up to speed on the news of the day. You're listening to Jesse Jackson Jr. only on KBLA Talk 1580.
Someone had a birthday.
Yep, 50. Can't believe it.
50 years of wisdom.
Great segue. We have health news, a CDC update.
Pneumococcal vaccination is now recommended for adults 50 or older. Says here, we're over 6 times more likely to be hospitalized with pneumococcal pneumonia than adults under 50.
I don't love those odds.
Same. Look what I found. Pfizer's Prevnar 20 is proven to help protect adults against pneumococcal pneumonia and invasive pneumococcal disease in just 1 dose, and millions have already gotten it.
Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you have a severe allergy to its ingredients. A weakened immune system may lower your response. Common side effects include injection site pain and swelling, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138. Visit Prevnar20.com or talk to your doctor or pharmacist.
I'm on Prevnar20.com now, scheduling my appointment.
Good idea. And happy 50th.
Are you having trouble hearing? Hearing loss can devastate the quality of your life. Now, there's an affordable fix for you or your loved one. Rated in the best hearing aids of 2024 by USA Today, Audion Hearing has the highest quality hearing aids at the lowest prices, just $189.
I actually like them better than my old $5,000 hearing aids.
I could not believe how my hearing and life changed.
Join over 500,000 happy customers by going to audionhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie. Texting privacy policy and terms and conditions posted at textplan.us. Texting enrolls for recurring automated text marketing messages. Message and data rates may apply. Reply stop, opt out. Individual results may vary. Consult a doctor prior to use.
If you've struggled to lose weight in the past, this important message is for you because you could lose as much as 50 pounds or more with Zelfie. Zelfie makes it easy and affordable to get weight loss treatment 100% online. Zelfie providers can prescribe FDA-approved GLP-1 weight loss medications clinically shown to help people lose weight like Wegovy, Zepbound, and others. Plus, help get the medication covered by insurance so it's as little as $0 a month. The doctors are super helpful, and the meds have been a game changer. It's the first program I've had success with. Before Zelty, I was unable to lose weight, even though I was eating healthy and exercising 6 days a week. Zelty helped me not only lose weight, but I feel so much better. Text GOAL to 200-300 to get started today with Zelty and see if weight loss medications like Wegovy or Zepbound are right for you. Don't wait. Text now for a link to your exclusive offer. Text GOAL to 200-300. That's GOAL to 200-300. GOAL to 200-300.
My mom has decided to learn to paint, and she's good.
My dad's now into creative cuisine, and I've already put on 6 pounds. Learning new things comes with age.
My mom, she started forgetting my name and what we're talking about.
Forgetting well-known things doesn't. Memory loss may be a sign of Alzheimer's disease. Early detection gives you and your loved one time to plan for the future. Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's at 10signs.org. Brought to you by the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
After you use Bounce Dryer sheets and realize how fresh, soft, less wrinkled, and less staticky your laundry can be, you'll every time. Like those socks that smell like they've been through a marathon. Or that blanket that's got wrinkles on its wrinkles. Maybe even your chatty coworker who keeps distracting you. Okay, Bounce Dryer sheets can't do it all. But for fresher, softer, better laundry,
Now back to more of Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. My very special guest has been Dr. Adams Pickett. She's the owner and operator of Augusta Women's Health and Wellness Center in Georgia, where she's dedicated her career to providing comprehensive care for women at all stages of life. Her extensive experience and commitment to women's health makes her one of the most valuable resources for commentary on issues that we have been discussing today. Dr. Adams Pickett, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Thank you for having me, Jesse.
I am so grateful that you're here. Let me ask you this question about women and politics. We're looking at cuts in the National Institute of Health research dollars. We're looking at a reformation of the Department of Health and Human Services. We're looking at the elimination of the Department of Education. The politics of this are extraordinary. I'd like your thoughts on that, what it means for you to be the first in your generation of African-American women to accomplish what you've accomplished, but it also might very well mean that you could be like the first African-Americans who went to Congress in first Reconstruction, about a dozen of us. It came to an abrupt end at the end of first Reconstruction with the beginning of Jim Crow. And as we look at a new Jim Crow, all of the progress that we've made could very well come to an abrupt end without the resources necessary to produce more people like yourself. What does this moment mean to you?
This moment is concerning for me, Jesse, because many of the areas that you mentioned where research funding has been cut, how we practice today, even what we know about hormone replacement therapy, what we know about cervical cancer prevention, what we know about breast cancer prevention, what we know about taking care of Black women in pregnancy that differs from other ethnicities is what we have learned from research, from targeted research to address these particular categories in women and Black women. And this is not how we managed these patients 20 years ago, 25 years ago, even when I first started in medicine. But we changed and improved the way that we take care of patients because of the research. Once that research is cut, what we are essentially saying is in the next 25 years, we will not have these advances for our daughters and granddaughters. And that they're facing a life kind of like where your aunt was, where she had care that was not sensitive to her needs because she was working with a generation of providers who did not have that data in front of them.
I was talking with Dr. Jacqueline Thompson, the pastor of Allen Temple in San Francisco, the Oakland, California area yesterday on our program. And she said that given all the progress and all the struggles and all that we've been through as Black people, that Black women need a spa day, a self-care day. Every day we hear something new from the administration, some new attack on our people. And then all of those attacks in some way, shape or form, that trauma shows up in your office when it comes in and says, I have a problem.
Yeah.
Tell me about what that spa day looks like.
Well, what you're talking about, Jesse, is a proven concept called weathering. Essentially, is if somebody walked up to you right now and said, boo, you would jump, your heart would race, your breath would catch. So imagine walking around 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with somebody going, boo. You know, you're constantly, your heart is constantly racing. After a while, your heart can't continue to function at that level. The release of those catecholamines that make you get really, you know, you cannot handle that 24/7. So we need a moment where we can actually stop holding up the world and taking care of everyone else and take care of ourselves and hold ourselves up.
Black women ascended and then they seemingly got pushed back. And you're saying that we need this moment to hold ourselves up.
Yes. Ascend us, let us ascend, and then do what you can to keep us up there.
Amazing. Let me ask you in these final moments of our show to offer us a word of hope. And let me preface it by saying this, because I think that doctors are a little closer to the Lord than most of us think. I say that because I spoke with one of my friends who is a physician, a cardiac surgeon, and he said, I know now with the 3-year ministry of Jesus of Nazareth that I know exactly what Jesus was doing 12 years before that. And I said, Michael, what was that? He said, he was in medical school. You see, but somewhere between Egypt, Galilee, and Nazareth, he had to go to medical school to start healing people. And he had to heal their mind, their body, their soul, their spirits, the trauma of the Roman Empire and oppression. He had to offer them words of hope in spite of a resilience that came from that message. He said, Jesse, I'm telling you, Jesus of Nazareth went to medical school. And I said, wow. With that insight, Dr. Adams Pickett, share with us the source of the resilience of our people and why we have to push forward and why this kind of spirituality is so important during these times.
Well, when we consider that this country itself has been in existence for 248 years, but we only had anything that resembled anything like equal rights since 1965. So for 188 years, we were marginalized, we were restricted, we were terrorized, but we still managed to survive and thrive. Most of the accomplishments you see in medicine, science, and engineering were begun with people who look like us. So we're going to take us back so that they can't take us back.
I love that. Dr. Adams Pickett, share with us how our listeners can stay in touch with you.
You can find me on Instagram and Facebook as Dr. Donna, the Girlfriends GYN, on TikTok as Dr. Donna, the Girlfriends GYN. And my office is Augusta Women's Health and Wellness Center.com.
Is there a phone number at the Wellness Center?
Absolutely. 706-228-6060.
One more time, please.
706-228-6060.
I am so grateful that you spent this time with us, and I hope that you will come back and contribute. Our producer, Gina Towns, is extremely excited about your participation in our show today. She said, Jesse, you're going to be overwhelmed by what she has to say, not just in our introductory interview, but as a regular contributor. There has to be moments. There has to be these moments during this period where you say to yourself, self, I sure want to talk to the world today. Tell them how I feel. And you are more than welcome to be here on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are so very, very grateful for your leadership, for your scholarship, for your commitment to our community and your service to our people during these very difficult and trying times. Dr. Adams-Pickett, I'm so grateful you were here today.
Thank you so much for having me, and I would love to chat with you again.
I look forward to it. This is Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. I want to just opine for a brief moment on the significance of Women's History Month 2025. At this moment in our history, from 1619 to the present, we are looking at the most sophisticated number of African Americans, the most educated African Americans in the history of our nation. Dr. Adams-Pickett is certainly one of them. The women that we brought forward in this month are certainly those women. They overwhelmingly control the Democratic Party at this hour. I'm grateful that they're spending their time with us on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show, and never forget that the sky is the limit. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr.